All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and just get us going here. We're in the happy trails section of the day, as Cris described a moment ago. Apropos way to describe this, this being really the first ever day-long event to focus on conversations with everyone about misophonia based on very recent scientific research only. It's also quite possibly been the largest ever event to focus on misophonia with 700 plus people registered. We had scientists share incredibly exciting new results and very graciously stick around to answer all sorts of questions from all sorts of people. So thank you to everybody who did that. We heard all sorts of things. We heard about neural models that are new. We heard about studies identifying possible mechanisms of misophonia. We found out about the genetics of misophonia and the prevalence of misophonia. We talked about all sorts of different things related to possible comorbidities, possible transdiagnostic underlying processes in misophonia that we might see outside of misophonia. We've seen all sorts of things. I'm just going to say real quickly, and then pass to Cris and Jen, just a couple of thoughts about what it might all mean. And I think, one thing this might mean is that we are getting closer and closer to finding mechanisms of what misophonia is. Things like social control, emotion dysregulation, sensory sensitivity, and other mechanisms. I think second, these neural models are now starting to point us to the role of top-down and bottom-up processing, as well as to sensory gating and to the role of perception. So we're finding some interesting new things here. And third, I think we're seeing today that misophonia does not seem to be mapping onto any single one disorder. This is not specifically related to any mental health disorder or any medical health problem. We're not seeing that at all today. And so that's really, really interesting and raises the question of whether we're getting closer and closer to concluding that this may be, from a scientific perspective, its own separate thing. What was missing? What was missing from our talks? I wish we could have done several days worth of talks, and maybe we'll do that next year. We'll see. To my mind, one of the things that's notable that was absent across these studies was a focus on the recruitment of diverse samples. It's my opinion that to ultimately understand misophonia, we need to study it in all people, not just in some people. And we need to work really, really hard, all of us, to recruit minoritized people, whether they're racially or ethnically or sexually or in any other way minoritized. We really need to be bringing all people into research on misophonia. We also need to understand, what kinds of treatments might be able to be developed successfully. But to do so, we have to develop them thoughtfully. From the ground up, as one speaker said earlier, the challenge with doing that is that it can take 5, 10, 15, 20 or more years to do that. And in the interim, we have to help people. We can't wait decades in the hope that eventually we'll build something perfect. We have to help people now. And we also need scientific research to help guide us to figure out what are those interventions we can use now that can be appropriated kind of off-label, if you will, for other conditions that share certain features with misophonia. And on that last point there, we need in studies, and we didn't really hear it very much in these studies, and I would call for all researchers who are doing this work to do more of this, which is we need studies that can start to parse out what are the shared features of misophonia with other conditions, and what are the unique features? What makes misophonia really misophonia and not hyperacusis, or not anxiety, or not some of these other things we've heard about today? Until we do that scientifically, we're kind of a little bit left in the dark about what to do clinically. So to me, these are really 3 important things that are left. And maybe next year when we do this, we will see answers to some of those questions. I'm going to turn over to Cris and then Jen. And thanks again, everybody. What a day.
Thanks, Zach. I don't have anything too much to add other than when I look back on my life, I'm 48, and for years I had this thing that I couldn't talk to anybody about that didn't make any sense, and it was off anybody's radar. And to know that all of these people are dedicating their professional time and expertise and funding to researching that thing, and that they volunteered to share that with us, is kind of overwhelming and very validating. And to bring it all back around gives me hope. I can't speak for the entire misophonia community, but I know it's something that helps me get through the day knowing that there's work being done on it of this magnitude. Dr.
Jen,
Brout?
final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Thank you all. Thank you to the participants. Thank you to all the planning team. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you to the sponsors. And what I would love to see next is some synthesis of all of the work that we saw today. And I'm not quite sure, Zach, I'm going to throw that to you, how that would happen, but it would be so interesting for this work to be synthesized and discussed again. I would love to see a follow-up if we can do
I
that.
think that's the answer, Jen. I think you're throwing it to me. I would say the answer is we do this event again. We enhance it with more multidisciplinary collaborative work, and we recommend that anybody who's watching this do what they can to contribute to multidisciplinary collaborative work on misophonia. We can't work in silos and isolation. We have to work together to solve this problem. That is the only way.
I agree.
Right on.
Okay, everyone. Well, I think that is the end of today. Thank you to everyone who stuck around, and thank you to everybody who's watching and sharing. And please give us feedback at any point. If anybody has anything to share, we would love to hear feedback. Thank you, everyone, for participating in Misophonia Care Day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening.